Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the weekly watch list. This is your host, Jeff Kohler, aka Option Addict. I hail from over at TAJK.wmv, in case you didn't know. Let's start off with a little bit of market analysis. So the S&P really hasn't, aside from last Monday, we just kind of slowly, gradually, we're crawling higher. Futures are up pre-market, which makes me think that we might be continuing that movement. But even though we haven't seen a lot of real directional movement here in the S&P, the NASDAQ, and whatnot, I really do like the current that's taking place underneath the surface. I like what the individual sectors are doing, the rotations from financials to tech to home builders. That's been so easy to game lately. So I'm of the idea right now that really the S&P can do what it will, but we've got some really good themes going on here within each individual sector that have been working out really well. So I'm just going to kind of pick up where I left off here last week, which was on fire. And I'm going to just say that so long as the S&P continues to stay within this trend, we see it up, extended a little bit. I still think this is a market that you can continue to buy in. I still like a lot of the individual setups that I'm going to show you this week. So let's start with those. I got some buy the dip candidates, some sell the rip candidates, and some $10 darlings. Have a look.
The champ is here. 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 The champ is here.
All right, and on to the price patterns. A couple things we detected on Friday. Number one was the transports. I can pull up the transportation index, which traded to new highs on Friday. Even though stocks were doing what they were doing, which wasn't much. I like what the transports are doing. This is a group that, in terms of bullish percent, has one of the highest ratings, so I'd keep that in mind. But from a short-term trading perspective, I think you got to look at some of these little patterns here. In particular, CNI, which was one of my favorites. Beautiful-looking ascending triangle. It just popped outside of that here, and so I think if prices don't move too much or gap open, this was a big move with big volume, and this pattern here still suggests a move up into the $60 range. So keep an eye on CNI. That's one of my favorites. One of the others that I like, you can take a look at CP. And this one's a little bit tighter. You might have to zoom in and look at this one here, but there it is nonetheless. You got another little triangle pattern. Not as much volume, but still a good continuation pattern. Price is just starting to break outside of that area, which to me looks like a beautiful breakout here to buy. Also in transportation, I think you got to be looking at JB Hunt, JBHT. And look at this, good volume on Friday, good break of this symmetrical triangle, and it's one that's pretty big here too. And so this move suggests that it's just now underway, not too late to buy. A couple of other things in machinery. We've been watching Joy Global forever. At first I was watching this and went another route instead as opposed to buying this one. I felt pretty bad for not picking it up. But what I'm looking at here now is this movement. And if you do a quick comparison to Bucyrus or some of the competitors, this one's been a late bloomer, but after Bucyrus took out its highs, notice that it went on a significant run. So I'm expecting Joy Global to do a little bit of follow-up work here, which means, I'd love to buy it into weakness. I'd love to pick it up back down at 57, 56, but if not up here, I still think that's a pretty manageable position, even if you only come in with a partial. A couple of other price patterns I'm looking at. I'm a little bit anticipatory here, but the move we saw into tech stocks on Friday I think was really, really important. Transportations and tech stocks were the ones that traded really well on Friday, and tech had been lagging all week significantly. Now you've got Google down at 600, which I think is a screaming buy, and you've got Amazon down here right at about its 50-day moving average, which also a screaming buy. And you can see the symmetrical triangle I'm anticipating here. I've got took a position here on Friday, but I still think it's a pretty early spot before this thing starts to break out. So, and I'd even go out of the money calls on this one, which I've been a little reluctant to get too aggressive with options lately, but I think this pattern looks good enough that I think you can. A couple others here. Let's go to, let's look at some Parker Hannifin, right? Let me extend these out a little bit. You can see, holy hell, there we go. This consolidation pattern, which has been up for a little while, and really, really nice break here as of Friday. Decent volume, but a really good break outside of this pattern. This pattern suggests about a 5-point move, which puts the stock up north of 60. Also like, let's see, software, INTU. You might want to look at this at a longer term chart. I'll go to the 1 year. And there it is. Beautiful little triangle pattern. And a pretty good reference point, which we should see a breakout of maybe as early as tomorrow. Speaking of software, I think you got to look at BMC, one of my favorite software plays. You can see it had a little triangle pattern that it popped outside of, and ever since then, it's just been sitting here flagging. So watch for a break of this one. I'd prefer to buy it up a little bit, not as much as 41, but maybe, I don't know, 40.75, 40 and a half. If it starts to pop outside of that flag, I think you got to get long. A couple others. Sanderson Farms. Here's the pattern. Little symmetrical triangle just popped outside of that here on Friday. And then last but not least, AFAM. You also got a little bit of a triangle, a wedge, whatever you want to label it. Looks like it's ready to break out, and the spot looks pretty decent, down here near support. So it's a pretty good list, guys, and we've had a really good list over the last couple of weeks. A lot of our trades are really coming in as of late. We've got some great movements. We anticipated a lot of great things, and what I'm seeing so far from this market here in the start of the new year is really good rotations, and I'm hoping that it sticks, because if it does, that's going to be a market that's going to be very, very easy to trade in for some time to come. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that. As always, thank you for stopping by. This has been The Option Addict. That's been my watch list. Thanks for watching. Have a good week.
Bring the hook in.